Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe and this is Transfers Live Update. Daniel James has been sold to Leeds United for a fee in the region, depending on your source, of around £30 million. Let me know what you think of this in the comments first of all. We have had a here we go from Fabrizio Romano, and with it being just over 24 hours till the end of the transfer window, we will be bringing you every single update for Manchester United. And of course, let's put this into a bit of context. This is one of United's biggest sales ever. I know that, he's not one of the biggest players ever, nothing like that. But, after Lukaku and Di Maria and Ronaldo, things start getting a bit shaky in terms of the amount of money we've made from players. So Daniel James, £30 million, €28 million, somewhere in that region. Again, Romano saying one thing, a couple of other journalists saying slightly other things. But what we do know, and I'll go straight to Fabrizio Romano, we should have a graphic on the screen in just a couple of minutes. Daniel James to Leeds from Manchester United. Deal done, now confirmed, and here we go. The agreement has been completed for €28 million with add-ons. Personal terms agreed a few minutes ago too. Medical tomorrow morning, official announcement soon. And that was coming off the back of more news that he put out exclusively, according to him, a few hours ago, that Leeds are in advanced talks to sign Daniel James from Manchester United on a permanent deal. Discussions ongoing to complete the agreement. Talks also on personal terms. Obviously that now has advanced to the point where we are saying here we go on Daniel James joining Leeds. Now, let me know what you think of this in the comments. My personal opinion on this are sort of twofold, really. Firstly, on the player, I think when you sign a player for £15 million, which is roughly the region that we signed Dan James for, you're expecting someone that isn't going to be, the best player in the squad. And he wasn't the best player in the squad, and he hasn't been the best player in the squad at Manchester United. Most times, he's not, even the best player on the opposition squad. But what you do get out of Dan James is 100% effort all of the time, great work rate, great effort, and that's something that never faltered, never waned, even when, presumably, yesterday or last week, when he's been talking to players and playing for United, he's going to know that there's a chance he's leaving. The two games he's played this season, also 100% effort, and again, it's one of those things that it's sort of, yes, it's the minimum requirement, but Dan James doesn't have the most quality in the squad, and I think he's all someone that we can all say, we know he's probably not good enough for Manchester United, but he did everything he could whilst he was here to do the best job he possibly could. My other point on Dan James is, we've got 30 million quid for him, or thereabouts, maybe 28 million euros, which is more like 25 million quid. But again, we've either doubled or nearly doubled what we bought him for, which, as I was saying on the podcast earlier, makes sense because he went from being an unproven Championship player to being a relatively proven Premier League player. Last season, he made 26 appearances for Manchester United. 5 goals, 2 assists, which isn't great, but it's 26 appearances for Manchester United, and that is nothing to be sniffed at. The season before that, he made 46 appearances for Manchester United, 4 goals, 7 assists. This is a man that's played, nearly 70 games for United in the last 2 seasons. This is, a lot of experience. This is a player that you know what you're getting out of, and like I said, he's never lacking in energy. He's never lacking in intensity. He does have a bit of quality as well. He's not, league-winning Manchester United quality, but he's good on the ball. He drives forward very well. He uses space and pace very well, something that, you look at a lot of players around the league don't do both well. You're either quick, but you're running into problems all the time, or you find space, but you haven't got the sort of the legs to back it up. He does that very well. He's not particularly great in front of goal. His stats there, 4 goals, 7 assists in 46 games. Isn't necessarily going to win you a league title, but I think when we think back at Dan James and what he did for the club, and sort of, let's not forget the time we signed him as well, there was players in this squad that didn't give you all that and that didn't give you 100% every week, and yes, that seems to be a minimum requirement and you would think it would be, but he wasn't always, he was not one of the only ones, but it wasn't like everyone in the squad was turning up and giving 100% every week. I think it was a difficult time when he came in, and for me, I was a big fan of Dan James, and I don't think it's a bad thing to have sold him. I don't think he was going to make the difference. I think when Cristiano Ronaldo comes in, and especially when you look at the fact that Amad Diallo won't be going on loan due to his 6-week injury that he suffered, this makes a lot of sense. But, for me, I would like to say thank you very much to Dan James for what he's done at Manchester United, and he's definitely proved himself to be Premier League quality. Maybe he's not going to be good enough for United, and we've seen that he isn't. But I think he's done a lot of good things for Manchester United, and I don't think he's one that, other than the fact that he's going to Leeds, which is obviously a rivalry there, I don't think he's someone that needs to hang his head next time he comes to Old Trafford. Although maybe now you play for Leeds, you do. But then again, United still sold him to Leeds. Maybe you can blame him, but, United were willing to do business with Leeds, weren't they? Let's get into the comments a little bit. Dan can hurt our opposition at Leeds, potentially. People saying that Everton is hijacking the deal. Right. Let's have a look at this then. Because Fabrizio Romano, he said, here we go. You've said, here we go now, Fabrizio. What's this hijacking we're hearing of? Hopefully someone will be able to send me that. It's in the group here. Let me just check this. This is very interesting. This is according to, and if you've got a better source, let me know, Footy Insider 24/7, which I'll be honest, I'll go with Fabrizio Romano over them. They are apparently saying that Everton are hijacking a move to Leeds United for Dan James. Let me know in the comments if we have a better source than that, because whilst at Footy247 is a genuine Twitter page, someone has taken the time to set that up, does that necessarily mean it's reliable at all? Apparently they are legit. Let's wait and see. What we do know is that Dan James is leaving. Interest in this. United Report have tweeted this. Have tweeted what? That he's going to Everton instead. I mean, we can quote Footy Insider 247. I don't know who that is personally. Other people, they've also tweeted that he's going to Leeds, and Fabrizio Romano said, "Here we go." What we're going to do? We're going to trust Footy Insider 247, who may well have the inside scoop on this. Who knows? After all, they're called Footy Insider 247. Or are we going to trust Fabrizio Romano, who, tends to get these things right? Who knows? All we know is that Dan James will be leaving Manchester United. I tell you what, it's not going to be any less than that. All this means is that it may be more than that. But by the sound of it, this deal to Leeds is done. Oz saying for 30 million, we have to get a DM now. We absolutely have to. My vote's with Neves or Camavinga. And this brings me on to my next point. I was looking at Twitter before. The Dan James deal is breaking, whether it's Leeds, which it looks like, if we're honest, or whether there is a sort of 11th hour Everton intrigue into Dan James. Regardless of who it is, what's clear is that he's leaving, and it will be for a fee around £30 million, including add-ons. Do we now, have to go for a defensive midfielder? We saw Ruben Neves yesterday against Manchester United. We've seen him for the rest of the season so far. It's only 3 games, but he's been excellent. He does something that none of our players can do in that position. He holds the ball from deep. He builds up play from deep. He's got an excellent passing range. He can control the game. Do we need someone like that? That's what a lot of people are saying. We've got 30 million quid in theory coming in terms of a net spend. Can we get Ruben Neves? Or are we spending that 30 million quid, or a large majority of it, on Cristiano Ronaldo's wages this season? Because by the sounds of it, he's on around £500,000 a week, which, that's 25 grand a year, £25 million a year, sorry. And that's, strangely enough, the exact amount that we're getting for Dan James, or thereabouts. It's interesting, isn't it? Because before we heard that if United were going to buy some more players, we'd have to sell people to bring them in. This was before the Ronaldo transfer. Now the Ronaldo transfer has happened, we still haven't sold anyone. If you ask me, we bought Ronaldo in knowing we could sell Dan James to fund the Ronaldo deal and not the defensive midfield deal. Let me know what you think. People saying now go for Neves, Camavinga or Basuma. They're the 3 names that have been mentioned all summer. Hope we get Sal or Neves with that money. 30 million for Dan James, you're having a laugh. Well, you say that, but Arsenal paid 30 million for Aaron Ramsey about 2 weeks ago. Ramsdale, sorry, not Ramsey. Ramsdale. Sheffield United paid 30 million for Ryan Brewster, who is far less proven than Dan James is. I would take Dan James over Ryan Brewster any day of the week, and they paid 30 million for him. I don't think that 30 million or 28 million, whatever it may be, for Dan James in that ballpark is an unfair price whatsoever. I think he's proven that he's Premier League quality at least, and he's still a young player. He's only, I think, 23, 24 years old. So I don't think that's a bad fee at all. And like I said before, I haven't looked at the track record of United sales, but based on just some quick thinking in my head, this is going to be one of United's biggest ever sales, which is remarkable. I would say it's certainly top 10, maybe even top 5 in terms of the amount of money United have brought in for players, which is sensational. I mean, obviously, that's partly down to the fact that United aren't a selling club, generally speaking. We buy players and keep them through their peak if we want them, and if they aren't at their peak, we sell them because, and they're not going to get so much money there if they're not United quality. But it's interesting, if anyone could work that out, what number Dan James is on the ranking of sales at Manchester United, because it'd be pretty high. A lot of people saying, we need to look for a deal for a DM. People saying any news about Everton trying to hijack the deal. There are some reports that Everton are trying to hijack this deal. Until now, I would go with the here we go, personally. Jonathan Schrager is saying that it's not quite done, apparently. Obviously, Romano seems to be either jumping the gun or maybe he's just got some early info on this. There were times yesterday, as that just fades slightly, there were times yesterday where certain people at Stretford Paddock knew a little bit more about the Cristiano Ronaldo deal than general either journalists or certainly Twitter as a whole. So there is definitely a chance Fabrizio knows something about this deal that other people don't. And the fact that he is saying, here we go, suggests to me that this will get done. Aslan Razul says, the 6th biggest transfer fee Man United have ever received. Now, I haven't checked that. Aslan, thank you for letting that in the comments. But that makes sense to me, because as I've said before, United don't get a lot of money for players generally, because generally, if someone's worth more than that, we keep them, because that's the sort of club we are. We're not a selling club. But this deal is nothing to be sniffed at. This is a big deal for Manchester United, and £28 million is a big deal. So here's Manchester United's sales in order of fee. Cristiano Ronaldo top, obviously 80 million. Romelu Lukaku 66 million. Angel Di Maria, we got 56 million for him. David Beckham 33. Mkhitaryan was 30. Although to me, I don't necessarily count that one, because we paid 30 for him. They paid 30 for him. We paid 30 for Sanchez. That was a swap deal. I think that was a swap deal, and pretty much no money was exchanged except something on the tax documents. Yapstam there in 6th, but actually he's in 5th. I think that puts Dan James as the 5th highest sale in United's history, which is mad, isn't it? Dan James is... So here's your list of United's biggest ever sales. Ronaldo, Lukaku, Di Maria, Beckham, Dan James. There you go. He's joining an illustrious list there. Apparently Everton after Lingard. It's all kicking off in the comments. Who knew? What time is it? 7:20 on a Monday afternoon, there'd be this much kicking off. Abhishek in the comments saying, for a mid-table team, he can provide a lot of pace on the counter. I wish him all the best. He gave it his all. Still remember his first goal and celebration, exactly, coming off the back of what must have been a horrific summer for him as well. And he, I didn't want to really mention that, but obviously it's worth mentioning the goal and the celebration there, as you've said. Even sentiment aside, and everything he went through with his dad just as he was signing for Manchester United, he was a good player for Manchester United, Dan James. And again, I'm not going to knock him or have a go at him for not quite being United quality, which I think he isn't, and I think anyone would admit he isn't. He was a good player for United, and if he was going anywhere other than Leeds, he might get some gentle applause the next time he came back to Old Trafford, but he probably won't get that now. I'm not saying he'd get a standing ovation by any means, but he might go, number 16, Dan James. Oh, go on, lad. Not getting that now, they joined Leeds. Talk MU says, number 6, no trophies. It's that important. You know what? I'm talking about, obviously, if we don't sign a number 6, United won't win any trophies. There's part of me that doesn't disagree with that, to be honest. I do think you watch the game against Southampton, you watch the game yesterday against Wolves. Our defensive midfield area is not equipped to win a Premier League at the moment. I think maybe once you bring in Rashford back in that side, maybe you bring Bruno a little bit deeper, you go with a sort of Bruno Pogba Donny or Bruno Pogba McTominay or something in there, but Fred and Pogba isn't going to do it. Fred and Pogba isn't going to cut the mustard there. Then you're talking about where does Paul Pogba fit in the team, because whilst he's obviously a much better player than Fred, if he and Fred don't work together, you have to get rid of one of them. Now, does Pogba and McTominay work? I don't know. Does Pogba and Matic work? Probably not at Matic's age. It's all of a sudden, does Rashford have to come out? Does Pogba have to come out? We're creating problems for ourselves that would all be fixed by having a man in there that could play next to Paul Pogba or play next to Scott McTominay or whoever it may be, or play as part of a three alongside Pogba and Bruno and win games and control teams and control possession. If we bring someone in that position and the balance is better, then there is, absolutely no reason why we can't go on and win the biggest trophies this season. Let me know what you think to Dan James leaving. Some rumours, of course, of this Everton 11th hour sort of gazumping, I suppose you would call it. I love the word gazumping, and you only get to use it during transfer window, so use it while you still can. We gazump City for Ronaldo. Everton are trying to gazump Leeds for Dan James. It's very much the same thing, isn't it? A winger wanting to go to one club and another club getting him. It very much echoes the Ronaldo situation, this Dan James one. Football Nerd said, get Neves for James. Absolute baller. And I'm not having a go at you, Football Nerd. In fact, I'll say I'm not talking to Football Nerd. I'm talking to everyone except Football Nerd, so he knows, or she knows, I'm not having a go at him. 6 weeks ago, or a month ago, before the season started and Ruben Neves was looking brilliant, when Ruben Neves get brought up, most people didn't seem to want Ruben Neves. And again, I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone, but I saw a lot of people in our comments saying Neves isn't good enough, he's too slow, we need Basuma, we need Ndidi, we need whoever it may be, we need Sal Niguez. Now Neves has started the season well, and he's, some of his talents that were always there are being put on display once again. All of a sudden, everyone's quite happy with Neves. It's interesting how the tide can shift on those things very quickly. People saying Sal is greater than Neves, but definitely, a few weeks ago, not so many people were keen on Ruben Neves. He didn't have the greatest of seasons last year for Wolves, but as I said at the time, Wolves didn't have their striker. And not only did they not have him, but they lost him in quite sort of traumatising fashion, in that he had a fractured skull. Obviously, they didn't look as good last year. They didn't have a striker, and it's gonna show. I think that Ruben Neves would be a great addition to United. And he definitely does a lot of things better than Fred does. And statistically, surprisingly, and you can look this up for yourself, his tackling per game, his number of tackles per game, is very comparable to Fred's. I think Fred has an average of 3 tackles per game. Ruben Neves is something like 2.9. Ruben Neves seems like, because he's good on the ball while he's not good defensively, his tackling is just as good as Fred's. So it's very interesting, that the Ruben Neves situation. Maybe he's played himself into being worth 10 million quid more than he was at the start of the season because he's had such a good opening few games. But if United could move this money, and hopefully this isn't paying for Ronaldo, hopefully this is paying potentially for a new CDM. Now, in my eyes, there's still the likes of Jesse Lingard, who I think was available to leave even before Ronaldo came in. Now he's come in. Obviously, they're not playing the same position, but in terms of those attacking options, United have now got Sancho, who can play at a 10, who can play left and right. We've got Rashford, who can play on the left or up front. Martial, same thing. Mason Greenwood forcing himself into the squad off the right or up front. You've got Bruno, who can play in the 10, Donny, who can play in the 10, Pogba, who can play in the 10. We've got a lot of players who can play in those front 4 positions. I think, a lot of that could be put towards potentially another player. Suyam Chakraborty says, Joe, if we go for a DM now, do you think we will get a good one on the last day of the window? We know from how transfers have worked in the past, you can get good players on the last day of the window. In my eyes, there would be no reason that, obviously, it makes it slightly more difficult that it's the last day, but we've seen Berbatov, we've seen Cavani, we've seen so many players signed on the last days of windows, and by the sound of it, Ronaldo's going to get confirmed probably tomorrow, so that will be technically a last day of the window signing. There's no shortage of last day of the window signings that have been excellent signings. I don't think we're going to limit ourselves too much by the fact that if we were to go for a CDM, it would be on the last day of the window. Aaron Quinn says, I'll miss him and I wish him luck. It was a dream for him to be at the club. He helped us through the Ole rebuild at the early stages. Good luck, Dan. Completely echo that. I don't think anyone's got any ill will to Dan James. Absolutely none. I think a lot of people agree on his limitations, agree that he's not the man to take Manchester United to the top of the Premier League, but he tried his hardest while he was here. And like you said, he helped us through the Ole rebuild at the early stages. Played 46 games in that first season. That says a lot to me. That says a lot. And I think he played more than Romelu Lukaku that season. Or if it was the season after, more than he did the season before he left anyway, because Lukaku obviously got pushed out of that squad. Jamie Usher if you can get a proven Premier League DM who can dictate tempo for around the same price as selling James, then surely it's a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer, but I keep saying this, and I hate to say it, I think this Dan James transfer has funded the Ronaldo transfer, not a potential defensive midfield transfer. That's my concern. I think we had to get Ronaldo done last week, so, right, get it done, and we'll work it out afterwards. I think it was that kind of thing. I think it's like, well, I don't get paid till Monday. Yeah, we'll just get it now, and we'll work it out. That telly's gone off cam, if you could fix that for us. I think that's what we did with Ronaldo. I think we said, we don't get paid till Monday, as in Dan James is leaving, but, you know, we're going to buy it anyway because we want him now and we need that money and we'll sort the money out afterwards. Jack Hudson with a super chat, thank you very much, says, I like James. His first goal celebration was so memorable. That said, do we sell Lingard or swap him and use the James money to get Declan Rice? There's another option. There's a name I haven't heard for a while. Declan Rice coming back in. The light makes it look like Joe's got red eyeliner on. So does my red eyeliner, which I haven't got on. I'm joking. Football nerd again says, is tackler like Basuma better suited instead? Again, Ruben Neves gets in more tackles than you think he does. I know he's not quite the same as Basuma, but sometimes I think, and this is a thing with sort of, you know, Arsenal, because they don't score many goals, people think they're a defensive team, they're good defensively. They're not really. They've got a decent defensive record. Because someone like Basuma or Fred, I'm not saying they're comparable necessarily in terms of quality, but, you know, Fred's more proven than Basuma is, if we're being honest. Because they aren't particularly good going forward, people assume Fred is brilliant defensively. But he's not really. Someone like Ruben Neves, because he's good on the ball, people assume he's bad off the ball. And he's actually not bad off the ball. His interceptions, his tackling is actually very good. But because he can also touch the ball, play balls out to the wings, people go, oh, he's a ball playing centre defensive mid. He's not very good tackling. He actually is a good tackler. And I think that, you know, I personally think he'd be a great signing for United. Interesting. A lot of people saying go for Paulinho. I say a lot of people. It's one person about 60 times. I've seen it now. You don't need to say that again. Thank you very much. Other people are trying to put stuff in the comments. Joe, why are we being linked with Wesley Sneijder? He's been retired for years. I'd take him. Oh, he's a number 10, isn't he? And he's about 20 stone at this point. Any word who we might be going for? No, because I personally think we're not going to be going for anyone. Anyway, Neves, please. Yeah. Someone saying that Everton are trying to hijack the Dan James move. That was Football Insider 247, which, I mean, I'm surprised they're being quoted by anyone, to be honest, unless there's a personal connection between them and any bigger channels that may be retweeting them, because it seems an odd one. I think they've got like 50,000 followers. They're just called Football Insider 24/7. Those sorts of accounts, you know, are quite common on Twitter, but generally speaking, aren't correct. But who knows? Everton could be in for Dan James. What we do know is that Dan James will be leaving Manchester United for a fee in the region of £30 million. Medical expected tomorrow. There you go. Of course, that makes sense because, you know, the window ends tomorrow, so when else is the medical going to be? That's going to be all from me, though. Again, let us know in the comments what you think of Dan James, what you think this money should be used for. Is there a chance we get a CDM on the last day? What we do know is that we'll find out tomorrow night. Me, Adam and Jay will be live all the way through till the transfer window slams shut. Bring you all the deadline day deals, anything that goes on with Manchester United, of course, and anything in the wider football world as well. Also, if you want to check out the Paddock merch, head to paddockmerch.com. Very easy to remember. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much to Dan James for his service at Manchester United. We'll see you in a bit.